Good morning. Welcome to the September 24th, 2018 meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission. If you would stand with us, please, Commissioner Pettis Reed will lead us in our prayer and our pledge.
Shall we pray together? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day you've given us and the night's rest that we've had. Father, we ask that you be with us, that you protect us and you guide us. Father, we ask that you be with the first responders from this county that we have that are helping those individuals in the Carolinas. And we say a special prayer for those individuals who have lost home, that have lost life. And Father, we ask that you bring their lives back together, and the help that we can give them, we ask that you give us the ability to do so. Father, we ask that you be with us as we go forward this meeting. Give us the ability and the wisdom to make the right decisions that we should. Watch over us all, protect us and guide us. We offer this prayer in your Son's holy name. Amen. Amen. Let's pledge our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Call the roll, please, Gail.
Rhonda Allen. Jim Averwater.
Here.
Lee Bogle.
Here.
David Jones.
Here.
Mike Cush.
Present.
Craig Lynch.
Here.
Chip Pinion. Charlotte P. Here. Pettis Reed.
Here.
Mike Watt.
Here.
Jeff Phillips.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Gail. Doug is in Washington, D.C. Poor Doug. In Washington, D.C. This week. Danielle will be filling in for him, and of course Mike is here. And I think Danielle has an announcement that she would like to make, or an introduction. So Danielle.
Hi, Alan Stemke normally attends these meetings for representing Consolidated Utility District of Rutherford County, but they have a new gentleman on board, and he will be replacing Mr. Stemke as far as representing CUD at these meetings, and his name is Jason Laxon. And we have been working with him already on this review cycle, but did you have anything to add? Like, welcome aboard.
Jason, stand up if you would, please. We'll give you a solo shot here. Welcome aboard.
Thank
you. Okay, we have no minutes to approve, and we have a couple of items that have been withdrawn. Item 6B4 18-2101 for Webb Farm, and item 6B6 18-2105 for Tebro Minor Subdivision. Those will not be heard today. Item 6A, these are items that are submitted for preliminary plan approval. 6A1 18-1009 Creekside Estates, Section 2, 52 lots on 26.38 acres, Zone RM, located on Shallow Waterway. Black Diamond Construction is the applicant. This also includes a waiver to the fire hydrant requirements. Danielle.
Actually, on that last portion that you read, the waiver to the fire hydrant requirements, that's no longer needed. The applicant has supplied us with a will serve letter from Consolidated Utility District this morning, and so that portion is removed. However, they are seeking approval for a 52 lot subdivision on 26 acres. The property zone RM, and this is a continuation of the Creekside Estate subdivision. They've addressed all of staff comments, and the preliminary plan's in good order. There is a portion of the property that's shown for future development, or it's being investigated for possible annexation to the city of Murfreesboro. However, at the time the comments were prepared, no application for annexation was made to the city.
The yellow is the city around the section she's talking about.
Anything to add, Mike?
No, sir. Just the main portion that they're wanting to subdivide is adjacent to the existing subdivision and will connect to the step system. There is a city sewer off to the west a little bit, this green line that serves Whitworth Buchanan Middle School and the Maples, but they still have a ways to go before they could tie to that. So that's what they're kind of looking at is maybe tying into the city sewer, because I think the step system's at capacity after this development.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-1009 for Creekside Estate Section 2. Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 6A2, 18-1010, Rooker Landing. It's a PUD, 237 lots on 98.1 acres, zone PUD, located on Rooker Road. MH Way is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. Rucker Landing PUD involves 237 lots on 98 acres. This property was recently rezoned to plan unit development back at the June 14th Board of Commissioners meeting. The preliminary plan that was submitted, we have reviewed, and there were some differences from the original concept plan. As you will see that they're detailed, the phasing plan has slightly changed. The road alignment in phase 4 at the southeast side of the property has slightly changed, and the amenity area location has shifted, as well as the number of lots have been reduced. Now, in the zoning ordinance, we do have criteria that determines whether or not the changes are classified as a minor change or major change. A major change to plan unit development would require the applicant to go through the rezoning process again to change the concept plan. However, we've made an informal determination, or Doug has, that the changes do not fall within the major change classification. However, we have asked the applicant to formally submit a request to amend these items and for formal determination from the planning director. Also, Mike, you had some concerns with the soils on the property.
Right.
Now, as he's drawing that up, it was mentioned that some of these changes, especially the phasing plan, some of the road alignment changes, these changes do seem more logical than the original plan that was submitted. And we have identified one site on the property that shows a parking area that doesn't necessarily serve any particular use, but the applicants indicated that it's to reduce on-site parking. It's located on the same lot as a consolidated utility district lot, and of course their approval and a site plan would be, approval is necessary as well as a site plan submittal for that parking area, but it's kind of just standing out there. There's another parking area that is identified on the preliminary plan that serves the playground area, and so a site plan will be required for that.
All right. What Danielle was addressing, we have some hydric soils in the middle of the development. We've got some Tupelo, Dalton, Llewellyn in these areas, and we've asked the design team to be able to address this concern that we have. Typically, you know, from our training, we remember we had the 3 things that we need for a wetlands is hydric soils, water, and vegetation. So it's definitely got 2 of the 3, but we've asked them to be able to address these concerns that we have. We you know, we want to protect the future roads that are built here, and also the homes and the lots that are built in these hydric areas. So I'll leave that to the design engineer to address, but their initial response was, we will request the geotechnical engineer to include recommendations for both areas within the right-of-way and within the building pads. So they're looking into it. They're going to have a geotech look into it, but I don't know how far along they are with that.
Mike, I know we have a certain amount of control over the roads. We do compaction tests and that kind of stuff. Well, what control do we have over the, you know, if this is black, wet dirt, do y'all have the control to go out there and say, you've got to move this dirt, put in shot rock,
Well, a lot
and
of
then put
times-
the dirt back over it?
Yes, if we have issues and concerns, if we think it's a challenge that needs to be addressed on the front end, we'll ask that a geotech look at the lots. If there's any amount of fill, over 2 feet of fill, or hydric soils like that might be an issue, we ask them to look at that on the front end. And we'll flag the lots that we think might be issues, and building codes will pick up on those as well, and make sure that those items are addressed before building permits are issued.
Mike, I jump back to the stoplight, red light on
Yes, sir.
231. Okay, this is 200 and something here, lots.
Yes, sir.
I don't know, next month, we got another 200 and something lots going to be a little south of the
Yes,
big
sir.
developments
Right.
out there. Is this speeding it up, or is this doing anything?
This particular development is adding a dedicated right turn lane going north on 231. They've even shown the plan where they're adding a dedicated right turn lane coming out. First phase will have 49 lots. Their traffic study said the 50th lot, they need a traffic signal right here. So this is kind of a, I guess, an encouragement to get that light in. And as you mentioned, Davenport Station across the street, they are at their limit. And then there's a brand new subdivision that's coming in just south of Davenport Station, which you alluded to, will also connect to this. So, yes, the traffic signal is coming, and this is speeding it up.
I know we had some people to address this, how they had to go now back around to get to the school. Instead of going out on 231, they go back around.
Right.
the back
It's,
way.
yes, sir. I'm saying it's, in the mornings, it's probably very difficult to turn left out of here.
Yeah, and most, these kids will be zoned down to Christiana, I guess, won't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So that,
So,
is there adequate right-of-way there to put in that right-hand
yes, there
turn
is-
lane?
There's adequate right-of-way. The T-Dot right-of-way kind of flares out, and the turn lane will be all in the T-Dot right-of-way. And of course, we'll need T-Dot's approval on this, as we will with the traffic signal. Let's see, I think those were the main items, that the hydric soil.
TDOT has looked at that traffic signal, hasn't they?
Yes. Well, we're gonna have another meeting with them,
They've started the process.
middle of October, yes, sir, talking about that. So hydric soils, traffic signal, and then CUD, they had a meeting with CUD, and I'll let the design engineer address that as well. But those are the three, I guess, things that we're looking at on this development.
At this point in the preliminary plan, staff have a recommendation.
We need the design engineer to provide us with some comfort of what's going to be done with. As a civil engineer, I'm asking about the hydric soil. CUD's worried about the step system, the water. There is and I'll let Nathan address this, but there's like I said, some hydric soils that take up a lot of the middle of the lots, middle of the area of the subdivision that we'll need to address. And if you recall, the Walnut Chase that we deferred on previous site plan plats and plans, it was withdrawn after their study. They determined it was going to be too much wetlands and too much work to make it a buildable site. So
This is the one we saw last week,
Yes.
last month,
Yes, sir.
pardon me,
They-
on Walnut
they-
Grove
they-
Road.
Yes, sir, they've withdrawn it.
I just want, how did, Jim, a study to?
That
for
I'm
the
not sure.
wa-
They've requested one, but I don't know. Nathan Melson is here with CIA. He might be able to address that.
Nathan Melson, Civil Infrastructure Associates. We have contacted the geotechnical engineer. We have one on board for once we get more into construction beyond the preliminary phase. Now, he has given us some preliminary recommendations for, supporting slabs on grade housing, the roads, and one thing I want y'all to be aware of, and one thing that Mike has made us aware of long before we even got into the through the rezoning, is the railroad that fronts along the east side of the property is kind of one of our major barriers on the site. And so where the low point is on that railroad is we have to build the lots up a foot above that low point. So in case if there's another 2010 flood that comes through and it backs up, because there's only it's a 24-inch culvert that runs underneath the railroad that drains about 130 acres of land. And so if it backs up, we got to make sure that none of these houses will be impacted. And so we'll have to build them up with shot rock and make sure, of course, that the subgrade underneath them, the subbase, will have to be draining out as well. And so that either includes, manipulating the proposed grade so that it will gravity flow toward the lot lines in between and out, or have to put in foundation drains. And those are recommendations from the geotech engineer. It's just typical recommendations. Same thing with the roadways would have to be, we'll have to build up the roadways as well, but they'll also have to be compacted and either foundation drains along the sides, kind of underneath the curb and gutter, out to the storm drainage system and then to our detention pond.
Kind of what Nathan was saying, just to recap, the railroad creates a berm, essentially a dam or something. So they're going to excavate out in this area, their stormwater management area, and if they can, they're going to use some of that material, but mostly it'll be probably a lot of shot rock fill to bring the lots and the roads up to protect them from potential flooding.
With the restricted outlet, will it cause an increase in the size of the retention pond?
Most likely, because that'll be the controlling factor, pinch point.
Has that been factored in?
That will be in their design.
To this preliminary plan?
I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike, is there any regulation about having to build a house further from a railroad than it would be an interstate?
They have to stay out of the charter right of way, and I think it's 100 feet either side of the center of the railroad in this area. So it's pretty significant. But they've addressed that. The lots that do back up, I believe they're all outside that charter right of way. It would be like any other easement, CUD, electric.
And just so y'all are aware, one of the comments from the county, I think it might have been one of yours, Mike, or it might have been Doug's, but they did require that we have to get a hydrologic study because we do have farm ponds on the site. We have to make sure that, of course, those are farm ponds and not actually interconnected. Also, there is, you can see next to the railroad that there is kind of a swampy area down there that we have requested as part of the hydrologic study to, if that is a wetland, that we make sure we give the proper buffers, proper clearances, out and stay outside of that.
As a question for staff, are these all of issues that can be handled in-house without coming back before this commission if it is approved with subject to staff comments?
Yes, sir. I mean, if I'm not happy with the construction plans, there's not a pre-construction meeting. It doesn't move ahead. So, and that'll have to be addressed, not just for the first phase, but all phases. I'll make sure that's addressed on the front end. So and we've told them this on the front end. They were aware of it about the hydric soils, but like Nathan was saying, that with this man-made berm, the railroad tracks, they're going to have to build up around here and excavate out an extra large area to handle the stormwater. So, they're a good bunch of engineers. I feel comfortable that they can do this. But like I said, anything that, if their geotechnical study comes back, their wetlands determination, their soils determination comes back, if it modifies the layout, they'll have to come back with a new lot layout and design. And they're aware of that.
That be handled in the final?
No, sir. They would have to come back. If it's a significant enough change, they would have to come back through it as a preliminary.
So let me recap. What's your recommendation? That we approve preliminary, subject to all staff comments, or that you want to see something else before we even approve a preliminary?
I think they've got a good geotech engineering firm on this. I feel comfortable that they can address this, and I've forewarned them that if you know they have to come back with a redesign, they'll have to come back at the planning commission stage. So I'm okay with approving subject to all staff comments.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plan for 18-1010 Rooker Landing. Other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. A lot more work to do on that, Mike, it looks like.
A question for Mike.
Yes.
Before we go. How many different geotech firms do you deal with? And
Well, there are several. There's several in Nashville. There's a good firm that, Griggs and Maloney, that we had come talk about or did our wetlands training. They're a good firm that's here in town. But there are several geosciences, TTL, Nashville. I mean, there's just on and on. There's a lot of good engineers.
I didn't know if you dealt with one primarily or
No,
several.
Several. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a dozen really, really good ones.
Yes.
That gives me a comfort level then.
Agenda item 6B, these are items that are submitted for final plat approval. 6B1, 18-2094 West Mount Tabor Road, one lot on 1.88 acres zone RM, located off Mount Tabor Road. William Devane West is the applicant.
Hi, they are proposing to create a 1.88 acre lot from a parent tract, which will measure over 5 acres in area, so that portion doesn't have to be platted. And it's a minor plat with the exception of they are dedicating right away as part of this plat. They've made all of the changes that staff requested in their comments, and we find it in good order. Let's see, the applicant's not here.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve 18-2094 West Mount Tabor Road. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6B2, 18-2098 Cook property, a two-lot subdivision, two lots on 9.94 acres zoned RM, located off Rockdale Fellowship Road. Robert Cook is the applicant. Danielle.
Okay, on this plat, it is a minor plat with the exception of dedicating a portion of right-of-way along Rockdale Fellowship Road. The lots in their current configuration are both over 5 acres, and they are wanting to change the configuration, but it will not create an additional lot. It will still be 2, but they were hoping to cut the portion that's already developed with a home off from the larger tract, which is accessed via a 50-foot easement, and staff finds that they meet all of the criteria changes that we requested in our comments.
Mr.
Questions?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2098, 8 Cook property, 2-lot subdivision. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6B3, 18-2099, Teresa Robertson, a 1-lot subdivision, 1 lot on 2.14 acres on RM, located off Highway 99 and Low Road. Teresa Robertson is the applicant. Danielle.
Okay, this plat involves a parcel of land that you considered during your January 8th, 2018 meeting. They were seeking a change in zoning. However, it was deferred to allow the applicant to determine the amount of soils that are available and to better identify the area that they want to rezone. And this is the resulting plat. And they are appearing before you because of the dedication of a small portion of Low Road. They are dedicating right away. And we find the plat to be in good order.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2099, Teresa Robinson, a 1-lot subdivision. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question. So they're not asking for rezoning at this time?
They've not indicated as to whether or not they're going to revive the rezoning application, but we may see it in the next couple of months. But as of now, they've not indicated they wanted to move forward with it.
So what's the need then for the dedication of the right-of-way?
The dedication of the right-of-way is because that strip of Low Road is identified as 40 feet, and we're asking for an additional 5 feet to be dedicated to result in the 50-foot right-of-way, which is the county standard.
And that's, yeah, typically anywhere we'll ask if we can get the 50 foot or 25 feet from the center line.
So it's really almost just a housekeeping item? I mean,
Yes, yes. And that's one of the items that Doug's trying to modify our regulations so we don't have to bring every little
minor plat that's
plat
dedicating
that needs
right-of-way.
Dedication.
We did this same thing on Shetty Lane a couple of months back on a lot out there.
Other questions? We have a motion to approve. All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6B4 has been withdrawn. 6B5, 18-2103, Stewart Creek Farms. This is a PRD, Section 5, Phase 1, re-subdivision of Lot 160, 9 lots on 3.29 acres zoned RM/PRD, located on McLaren Place. A&R Land Investments is the applicant. Danielle.
Hi, this is an extension of Stewart Creek Farms. It was originally platted as Lot 160, but identified for future development. Since that portion that was left for future development, less than 5 acres, it was assigned a lot number. And they are seeking approval for non-lots on a 3.29 acre parcel. The property zone, both RM and PRD. And staff finds that the plat is in good order.
Danielle, you say it's
yes, sir.
in
They've
good order and
addressed
staff's
all of our
recommending approval?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Everything is consistent with the prior.
Yes, sir.
Prior sections, no
Yes.
significant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2103, Stewart Creek Farms. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6B6 has been withdrawn. 6B7, 18-2107, Stewart Creek Farms, PRD, Section 5, Phase 2, 34 lots on 13.67 acres on RM/PRD, located off Harriswood Lane. A&R Investments are the applicants. Danielle.
Thank you. Your comment sheet will reflect that this is part of Phase 1, but it is, as shown on the agenda, Section 5, Phase 2, Stewart Creek Farms, and they are seeking approval for the 34 lots on a 13.67 acres. It's zoned with conditional use for planned residential development. The preliminary plat for this section was approved back in 2006. However, the current plat that we're considering today appears to be consistent with that preliminary plat approval, and we find that they've addressed all of our comments, and we recommend approval.
Thank you.
Motion approved.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-2107 Stewart Creek Farm, Section 5, Phase 2. Any other questions?
Michael, there was something out on Stewart's Creek, we had a long discussion about drainage. Was this it? A long time ago? I don't remember.
I don't believe it was this one.
Drainage good?
Yes, sir. They're falling under the old rules and regulations, but drainage is good. And this eventually will connect to South Haven, which is right here, just to the south of Stewart Creek Farms. Zoom out a little bit and let you see. But this is South Haven working up from the south, and they've got a stub street connection right here, which will tie the two together. South Haven's down here.
We got TVA right away there where the land's cleared.
I believe that's a gas line.
Gas line?
Yes, sir. Colonial pipe. Yeah.
Mike, there was a lot on 160 a few screens back. What's that? Is that a future build out as well?
On the preliminary or the final plat?
No, it was on the screen.
Okay. Let me zoom in. Oh, this was the previous Phase 1 of Section 5. This is the previous plat that we approved right here.
Okay.
They where they're carving up. It was just they could almost get all of this on one plat, but they were so far apart with the step system right between them.
So it's this and this. Okay.
That's the little lot 160 where it was a remainder that was less than 5 acres, so I had to give it a lot number. And this is Phase whatever 1. Yeah, Section 5 Phase 1, and then the other one's Section 5 Phase 2 up here.
There actually, the step system is in between now.
Yes, right.
245 is the step system.
Yes, sir. Right, and it's up and functioning. And I think there's some more area over here for step system, lot 19. But all like Daniel said, it's in good order, and we recommend approval.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve 18-2107 for Stewart Creek, Section 5, Phase 2. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 6B8, 18-2108, Primbrook Farms, Section 1, 35 lots on 28.71 acres on RM located on Stewart Creek Road. Salem Creek Partnership is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. They are seeking approval for the 35 lots on the 28.71 acres on RM. This preliminary plan was approved by the Planning Commission in February 27, 2017. And Pembroke Farms, the final plat is consistent with the approved plan. However, we did identify a number of comments that are still outstanding. They've addressed most of them. They addressed the centralized mail service. They did identify lot 28 as being the site that the centralized mail kiosk will be located, and so that will require a site plan. And Mike, did you want to talk to some of the drainage issues?
Right. Most of these items are just housekeeping, but I think they've addressed all the drainage concerns. There's a large stormwater detention pond right here on lot 33. And this whole section and the future section will also drain to this, but they've addressed all that, and it's currently under construction, nearing completion. And like I said, most of the comments, remaining comments, are just housekeeping, like setting a side setback, an alternate side setback, and just minor things like that. But there's nothing outstanding that would give us pause.
So this subdivision will have a centralized mail kiosk?
Yes. All, if you're not receiving your mail yet, you're supposed to get cleared through the postmaster where the kiosk is going to be, or permission to keep getting mail at the street at the mailbox, at a regular mailbox. So this is a new one that they're going to probably want us to see a site plan for a mail kiosk.
I noticed it looked very tight there. Is there no pull off, no parking?
Well, that's what we'll have to see on a site plan. What we'll probably see is a little pull off for 2, 3, 4 cars, but working that in with a driveways and whatnot will be challenging. This is a cul-de-sac, which people can come up here and turn around. So it'll be a little challenging to get enough room for 2, 3 cars to pull off and get your mail.
Mike, I know this is a new thing, but I mean, this is final plat approval. Should we do that? Should we do that before we have the mail?
Well, yes, it's up to you, but all locations have to be approved through the post office, and then they have to submit a site plan back to us. But like I said, it's putting a driveway in for lot 27, and then a couple pull-offs locations for the mail, which would most likely be in the right-of-way, and then with the mailbox, the kiosk sitting behind it, it would,
This subdivision, probably preliminary was before.
Yes.
It was a change in the mail.
My question is, should we approve
that's
or
sort of where I was
finalize?
headed. I mean, that's sort of where I was headed. Looked like we need the site plan on it and the approval from the Postal Service. And another question, why didn't they put it closer to the start of the subdivision, or out on that main road? Looked like to me you're going to have people coming in that live on that back cul-de-sac, and then they're going to have to pull up in the front cul-de-sac. It would be better on Pembroke Farms Drive, looks like to me, somewhere in that area.
Right. Well, I guess their thought was we'll put it on a cul-de-sac away from the main thoroughfare. That Pembroke Drives is the main drive in and out, and several people stopping. Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a challenge.
Have you asked, what's the Postal Service say about, does it need to be on a cul-de-sac, or does it need to be on a main drive? Do you know?
Whatsoever. He said all it was here's our new rules. If you don't like it, you don't get mail. So it's.
So did I hear you say that if you're not already getting mail, then you have to do it this way?
You have to.
Well,
you have to go to the postmaster here, the regional postmaster, and get permission to continue to get mailbox delivery.
So if you've already got a subdivision built and perhaps submitting for final approval, or it's already been final approved and houses are under construction but nobody is getting mail yet because there's nobody living there, and somehow you're expected to go back and retrofit these subdivisions.
You have to ask permission or get approval from the post office, the postmaster, to say, okay, we're going to continue to allow mail, the standard mailbox delivery. Everybody has their own mailbox, or you need to reconfigure and do something for a.
This is in an existing subdivision?
Yes, sir. If it's a new section of a subdivision, previous sections have the mailboxes at the street. You're supposed to get the new section reviewed and approved through the postmaster, and he's going to say, okay, you continue with mailboxes, or no, you need to put in a.
Will these homeowners do that individually, or will they do it as a group? And some of these subdivisions don't have a
An HOA?
HOA.
Yes, sir. Right. Well, that was one of the things too. We asked, what's the lower end? I mean, are all these minor plats going to need site plans and HOAs and whatever? So they said their minimum kiosk size is 8. So any development with 8 lots or more will need postmaster approval.
So why didn't we discuss that on the Stewart's Creek Farm finals?
Stewart's Creek.
The ones, the other two we just.
I think they already have approval through the post office to continue with the street front mailboxes. I believe that's what they said.
I see Superintendent Brooks sitting over there. Will we have to coordinate with the county road department on these and all that too? I'm just sort of thinking out loud here.
They were granted a waiver, but they've not received the documentation back from the Postal Service demonstrating that they were granted a waiver, but that's what their response was to our comment.
But will they have to submit that documentation to you so you have it on file?
Right,
on the file.
Well, before Doug will sign the final plat. So,
you know, in some jurisdictions, they'll, you know, when we have surveyors submit a plat and it's from, they're used to working in another jurisdiction, they actually have a certification for Postal Service. So I don't know, we may move into that direction again, so.
Well, and I guess the other question is, you know, we've been requiring HOAs when there's been any kind of common space or anything that needs to be maintained. If you've got a subdivision that has, you know, 8 lots that are septic acceptable and there's no open space, who's going to maintain that kiosk?
it would have to be, I guess the post office. Well, I'm not sure.
To Rhonda's
responsible
point,
for
who owns,
mailboxes.
who owns the boxes and has to maintain them? I would assume the homeowners, but
I guess the homeowners association, but it's got to be a post office approved kiosk, and it's got to be approved through their postmaster.
if you had one with 10, you can't put 10 mailboxes down through there. Like
I don't think they want that.
Lot 28 wouldn't like that.
No.
Did the post office anywhere in the United States require this before, before we went out?
Yes, it's kind of like any trend. It starts in the east and moves west, and we're, I think, a few years behind, but it's the new law of the land for the post office. They're trying to consolidate deliveries, and
it's an efficiency thing.
yes, sir.
Right.
So, I don't know who will own. I would assume the HOA. I guess we would have to create an HOA to maintain that.
You know, and I'm thinking if a door gets ripped off, you know, one of those front doors,
Right.
who fixes that?
Yeah.
Who keeps up with
That's
the
the
keys?
property of the post office.
Yeah.
Well, it is the property of the post office, but I'm not sure.
Being an
I mean,
What size box you get? Some people get a whole more bigger box than others.
Right. So, I mean, if somebody tears up my mailbox, I've got to put a new one up. So I would assume, they would have to as well. But
Then also lot 28, do they get any sort of screening away from that, or you know?
That's
is it easy
first
to
would
do?
be determined during site
on the
plan.
site plan.
Right.
So those are all things you need to fold into the regulations that we're going to
Yes,
be
and
designing.
Doug
Great.
and Danielle and I are working on regulations, but it hadn't been finalized yet.
No, but I like that idea of a buffer. I hadn't thought about that. That would be, that's more advantageous, because I kept thinking, who's going to want to own that house? That's exactly what I kept thinking.
That me too, and the ones that we're associated with typically are the apartment complexes, and they provide a barrel or a trash can or something there to throw the junk mail in. So all of a sudden I see this being a littered lot or something that I'm thinking, they shouldn't, but.
It would kind of like being one of these lots up front
Who's
with
gonna empty it?
a central entrance sign. You know, it's gonna be a big feature that belongs to the subdivision HOA, but it's gonna have landscaping, and it's just gonna be a new feature on these lots. But yeah, it's
In and out or getting out.
Mhm.
Trash.
Right.
yeah, it's another one of the federal government's here. Y'all do this and figure it out.
I think lot 27 and 28 would be kind of aggravating to own.
And knowing the postal system, 6-7 years, we discovered this wasn't a good idea.
Well, we don't know that. So, but we have talked to Mr. Brooks about it, and if we do like a little lane pull-off where a car or 2 or 3 can pull off, he's, you know, if it's in the right-of-way, he'll maintain it after it's been turned over, or the highway department will, I should say. But it'll just be part of the street, just an extra lane where cars can pull off and not block traffic. The mail carrier can, you know, pull his truck off and deliver the mail, and you know, the curb and gutter will bulb out as well. But it's just something we'll have to fine tune.
How large are these lots? I mean, can you pull off some of that and still stay within?
These are pretty good sized lots. I think they're all standard 15,000 and above. And lots, what was that lot number?
28.
28.
That still gets us back to the question.
It's almost 20,000 square feet, almost half an acre.
But I wonder how long
That
they've been
still
doing
gets
it
back
up
to the
east.
question, do we approve a final plat without the post office area
Approval.
and design?
I don't see a representative from SEC here, so I don't know.
If it needs to move, will it have to come back before us? I mean, if it has to be.
Well, I would say so.
Just
You'll
on
see
an
it.
easement like that?
I don't know, do you think we'd see a site plan?
I wouldn't think.
I mean, if we see a site plan, if they've decided to modify the location, if the final plat's recorded and they later modify the location, it's going to have to be replatted and shown on another lot and replatted. It might come in as a minor at that stage, but it doesn't exempt them from the site plan requirement that requires your approval.
I would think, Mike, at some time in the future, we're gonna have to have another little certification, just like the water company, electric department, somebody from the post office.
A long
is
time
gonna-
ago, used to have the postmaster would sign off saying we could deliver mail here. So I'm like you, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that again.
I think at this point, since we don't have any regulations locally in place about this, then I don't know that we could deny it or because of some other new regulation that another government agency has imposed that's outside of the county jurisdiction. However, I think in the future we've got to prepare, and that's the only way I can think of to do it.
Yes, sir.
Well, along those same lines, I guess my question is, because this is new and because we haven't done it before, what's the downside to waiting a month for them? If they don't get their final today, how does that change their world?
I don't think it does. We've still got some fine tuning to do. They're still under construction. We haven't got to the point where we're ready to release lots. So another month, I don't think it would hurt them. I wish there was a representative here to argue with me, but they're still under construction. There's a drainage culvert down the street on Stewart's Creek Road that needs to be installed.
That may have been the one I was thinking about earlier.
Yes.
I think it was.
That's okay. That's there's a pond right in here, the stormwater pond. They've constructed a culvert down Stewart's Creek Road, and then it has to cross right here in this low area, and they've yet to put that in. So it's still, like I said, still under construction.
Mike, is there anybody where they've already been doing this, postal system's already been doing this, development anywhere that you could call and say, and find out, maybe this post office boxes need to be out in a little more visible area rather than a little nook hidden away, because people do break into post office boxes. And it was in a more visible location.
And to further Craig's point, do you have a contact person that approves this, or how is this working?
The local postmaster is the one. The postmaster for each zone will approve.
So you have to
so
go.
each zip code has its own, post office or two.
So there's not a central person within our county or our region that approves these?
No, sir. It's each post master from each zip code will approve the individual signs.
Well,
So-
and I'm thinking along Craig's lines, if they've been doing this up north for years, and we don't know what that means, I'm thinking 6 to 10 maybe, I'm guessing, you know, if they've been doing it and it's migrating here, surely there's a planning director somewhere up there that you could reach out to who's
Right.
perfected this, who has fleshed out all the mistakes and said, this is now what we're recommending. And I guess that's kind of what we're looking for is.
Best
Doug has
practices.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
In Doug's research for the mail kiosk regulations that we're going to try to implement, he has reached out to several different areas and has examples of such. But there's no, I mean, you look at one municipality, one government, they're all doing it differently, but within kind of those post office guidelines. So there's not a set standard. There's not, thou shalt put in a bulb
No,
out,
I-
thou shalt put in a parking lot, you know.
I guess I was just thinking more about just really practical experience that somebody's had where they said, you know what, we designed it this way,
Yes.
and then we stopped recommending that because of this downside. Now it needs to be lit, it needs to be sheltered, it needs to be buffered, it needs to be, you know.
Well, that's
whatever
kind of
those
what
things
we
are,
asked
yeah.
the post office official, said, is there a preferred method? They said, nope.
No, they don't care. They just need it in one spot.
Well, the postmaster
Make it
here,
happen.
the
Yeah.
postmaster here he's been directed from up above to what needs to be done, and that's what, but he won't have any design criteria here.
No,
But
and
the
their,
one-
you know, their forte is delivering the mail.
Yeah, his needs are met when it's in one spot.
Right.
That's all he needs.
They're just telling him what he's got to do, and
Yeah.
then he's telling us. So.
And if something becomes nobody's responsibility, it'll remain nobody's responsibility. I mean, I have farm property with a lot of road frontage, and there are several mailboxes on my property. I have to trim around all those mailboxes. The individuals who have those mailboxes do not cross that road except to get their mail. Not saying anything against them or whatever, but that's just human nature. I've had to finally go trim because I started having trees coming up near these mailboxes, and that's just the way it is. And if there is not any type of who's responsible for these, they'll soon become no doors, no keys, and whatever.
Quickly.
Very, very fast, because when you look at this right here and you're down here on this cul-de-sac and your house is way up here and your mail's down here, there's going to be somebody's going to drive into it. There's going to, I mean, I like to know who's responsible for this. And we all know once the subdivision's done, those individuals who've done that, they're not going to come back and
Yes, sir.
fix it up.
Well, and then you've got renters, and so now
Yeah.
the renter's getting mail there versus the owner of the property, and how does that fold in?
But the intent of this was to be under the control of the homeowners association. So, like the entrance signs, the detention pond, any other facet that would be a common development. This is, I would assume if the mailbox falls into disrepair, the HOA doesn't maintain it, the post office won't deliver the mail. You'll just put a note in and say, hey, you pick up your mail at the post office.
But then there's that mail that's been stuffed in there and stuffed in there. And back to what Lee said, when if there's not a garbage can there, when I get that junk mail, when I get my county tax maps or whatever, my taxes or something, I throw it away. I throw it away. So and that's what people are going to do. They're going to throw it. They're just going to throw it down.
Right.
And especially if it's in this little nook back here, it's not visible for somebody to drive by to see them do it. But somebody, and then somebody's got to empty that garbage can.
Yes, sir. Well, maybe we can get Max involved.
We just got to recycle that garbage.
Yeah, we put on Mike Cush on
Any recycling center or
Any
something.
convenience center, yeah. Convenience center.
But no,
And if you put a garbage can back there, they'll be putting everything out of the house in the
That's right.
garbage can.
I agree with it being off the main roads. I think that's a good thing for that stop traffic and pedestrians, but I just feel like it's been added to a lot
Yes.
at this point.
Yes.
And
And
It's an afterthought.
I'll be perfectly happy, since there's not a representative here, to say one way or the other. If y'all want to defer it, that's,
I think that's
I'm
the
happy with
smart
that.
thing.
Well, if we do another section, I think this stubs out correct, and we can do another section. Will the next section have a separate kiosk?
It could.
Do we need to do we need to establish a limit on the number of,
Sounds good, but it's just a
or
Point.
some, if we've got 10, sure, you can pull off the side of the road there and do it.
Yeah.
But if you've got 100, you need some pull-offs,
Right.
because you may have 10 people there at the same time.
Well, then it becomes a lot in and of itself, just about to allow that circulation.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And you almost need that, to me. I think it's silly to attach this to a lot next to a house. I think that's bad play.
And if this was the entire build out of the area, I hate for the developer to lose a lot
Right.
to mail service. But if you're talking hundreds, then you
Yeah.
probably need to back up and
Yeah,
look at
for,
that.
for safety's sake and everything else. But the question I have for Mike is, and you probably don't know, if we wait for a site plan for the mail thing, that has to be approved by the Postmaster General for 37128 or whatever the zip code is. When did they give you guidelines, like when we receive a plat, we will respond within 30 days, 60 days? So it could be 6 months before the post office approves a site plan.
They have been pretty quick on making determinations.
But it's the U.S. government.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't necessarily think if we defer it, I wasn't necessarily thinking deferring it pending
No.
the post office approval. I was really just thinking asking the developer to more thoroughly think out
Yeah.
the design.
Right.
That's what I want to
I
see.
think so as well.
Yeah.
I think it would be my suggestion to the developer to incorporate something in phase 2 and make this just a temporary mailbox situation. Now, they may not like that idea, and perhaps the post office would or wouldn't go along with it. But I would like to see something more substantial in the next phase that can cover this section and the remainder of the development.
Is there a preference, or do you know if we're doing 50 lots of 200, do they want all 200 at the same spot, or do they want 450s? And we're doing 50 lots at a time.
That I don't know. I guess it would be on a case-by-case basis.
Some guidelines from them would be helpful to us, I think.
Right.
I don't think we're getting that.
I don't think we're getting that either.
And-
I don't think we're going to get that.
In my thoughts, in a 200 lot subdivision, you would have an area that maybe those mailboxes are added by the phase anyway,
Right.
and that would be the ideal, to have it in one location.
And a lot of these,
But in one location.
a lot of these PUDs we're seeing, like Davenport Station, they've got an amenity area with parking lot. They're just going to put the kiosk there, which is a great location.
That's about what I was going to ask on this. Is there any amenity area for this?
No, it's a straight zone, so they've, 15,000 square foot lots.
It's a tough one.
Yes,
Yeah, put it by the pool parking lot.
but unfortunately, this one doesn't have a pool or amenity area.
Detention
It's
pond.
just a straight zone.
Yeah.
Put it in the detention
Yeah, put it in
pond.
the detention pond.
The
For one
detention.
boat to go out.
Yeah.
But no,
And we might be making way too much of this, but you want to try to think through it.
Yes, sir.
And-
Right. And like I said, I'm not exceedingly happy that it's going to be sitting on top of a drainage easement.
Yeah.
Well, I look at the lot 27, the lot 28 can load from Pembroke Farms Drive.
Right.
But lot 27, they don't need a driveway on the left-hand side of the house if you're facing it from the street. They'll need to have it on the right-hand side because it can back up there in front of their house.
Yes.
Certainly.
Right. Yeah, that is a good thought, but I mean, I would have to ask Danielle or Doug, could we create a lot less than 15,000 square feet? just
Probably have
for
to
a
change the
particular-
regs, wouldn't we?
I think we would. I would get, yeah, you don't have to.
Well, just like sometimes we give fire hydrant waivers, could we give post office waivers? I mean, could we give a lot size waiver if they're creating space for a kiosk? I mean, is that something we could work in?
The lot size would be, I would imagine if you wanted a lot to go below the established required size for a traditional zone, it would need BZA approval.
Okay.
But you could do these kiosks with an easement, much the way you do signage easements and other things, couldn't you?
And that's kind of what they're doing now is,
Yeah.
is an easement.
So then it doesn't decrease the size of the lot.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with Charlotte. The initial just little shaded box is not enough for me to say that this is ready for a final.
This is, let me just throw this out there. See the temporary, lot 12 and lot 11. See the temporary cul-de-sac? If the assumption is that the next phase goes out that direction, why wouldn't we just move the post office box to the cul-de-sac, have them pave that, and that become the phase 1 and phase 2 post office box location, and they have plenty of room, it's safe, it's turnaround, and that way it pulls it off that lot at 28 or whatever it is, 28 where it is now, and you could put a big one in to cover both phases and maybe kill two birds with one stone.
Right. That's something that we definitely look into.
I just think cramming it in where it is right now is a dangerous way to do that. You know the guy at lot 28 is not going to be happy.
No. No. And
Or
27
Or
either.
27.
right.
Maybe across the road from them.
Well, and something else to think about. I know roundabouts throw people off driving in circles, but if there was some way to incorporate that into a roundabout, it serves two purposes. You know, it's traffic calming. It's, you know, all those things, and it's right there, and it's central, and it's lit, and it's, you know, that might work.
Yeah, you might make the pull off the roundabout. You might be able to pull off the roundabout somewhere where the N for north is, or the E where east is, and have that you actually pull off the cul-de-sac in your own lane, access the mailbox, and then you pull back onto the cul-de-sac and move on to phase 2, or make the loop back around to your house in phase 1. I mean, you'd be giving up,
Very little.
not much land, and maybe that could be where you're.
Yeah, we could definitely.
I mean, that's just a
definitely
small
look at
piece of
that.
land you'd be dedicating, but you could have one master box for both phases.
Right.
I'm not sure where we are. You know,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna call for a motion.
Yeah.
Call for
vote.
Call for vote.
I'm gonna call for
It
one.
sounds like maybe we're trying to do the developer's job for him. I think it's pretty
Yeah.
simple. We're showing this, we don't like it.
Yeah.
So
Let's do-
either defer it and let them put back a better plan, or approve it with them moving that to a better location that staff can approve. One of those two things. And I agree with everything that you said. I don't like it, and it's part of the plan. So I don't care what the post office says, you know, they have to approve what's recommended, but we also have to approve in this final plat. So if we don't like it, just say no. Come back and tell us, put it in a different spot because we don't like where it is.
Right.
And then the post office would have to approve that. Have they already made application to the post office for that?
See if they have a comment on that.
Well, and the civil engineer's kind of in a bad spot.
Yep.
He doesn't know what
It's
to
tough.
design
It's
because
tough.
he's got no
Why not?
guidance.
I agree.
Yeah, kind of like the roundabout idea. I'm looking at that turnaround.
Fairly Rita,
You put it
it's
up
Brian
there,
Harris,
and you left the
coordinator,
permanent turnaround. You'd have a little
shown lot
parking on each
28
side.
lot line with lot
You could
27,
begin- I don't know.
10-foot hatch.
And then,
That's what it
and then it
says.
wouldn't affect this phase of the development, you know.
It's actually plowing new ground, but we're also crossing over from.
We're just
some-
brainstorming. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and make that motion to defer until this can be sorted out in a better manner.
Gail, did we have a motion to approve? We didn't have a motion?
No, no.
Okay.
I'm lost, so.
We did not at the time. I do remember that part.
We
A
have
long time ago. But.
We have a motion to defer.
Second.
And a second. Now, other questions or comments? And that motion to defer is based upon the location.
Better defining the location of the
Okay.
Postal Service.
Danielle, you got all that?
Yes, sir.
And if we
Okay.
need to bring it back in 2 weeks, if you know, they need, I think we could
We
put
could
it on
do
the
it
agenda
tonight,
in
maybe.
2
Yeah.
weeks if we needed to.
As soon as possible.
Well, yeah, just, yeah, whenever they're ready. Yeah.
Let me ask, just to cover our bases, do we put a maximum deferment of 30 days on it? Because I don't want to put the developer and SEC hanging out there indefinitely, again, because the engineer has no guidance from the federal government or us being Mike and Doug. I mean, I hate to keep them hanging, not be able to develop property because of one little thing that they're not really getting any guidance on. So,
Well, but there was drainage too. There were other issues.
yeah, I
we
know,
haven't
but I'm
missed.
saying they can get that worked out in 30
Going back,
days.
looking
but-
at this, they've got they're proposing the kiosk right here. So if they do a bulb out, you know, they've got to move this curb inlet somewhere.
I guess. Oh,
You know, move it over. So it's, yeah, there's some issues we need to have.
That
them-
design has a ripple effect.
It does. It does.
If you move it up there, and let's say we made where the temporary turnaround is, made that a permanent turnaround, and you have some parking on each side there, then you devalue the lot that's gonna be behind it too, so I don't know what you do.
Yeah, well, we'll,
They'll come up with something.
For them to bring it back, I'd like for them to bring it back to this time with this meeting, because this discussion could never have happened across the street.
right.
I guess as far as guidance that I initially think of is to try to minimize the impact to the traffic flow, which they've attempted to do here by not being on the main road, and then minimize the impact to adjacent properties.
And they need to think through ownership and design.
Ready to vote? We have a motion to defer item 18-2108 for Pembroke Farm, Section 1. All those in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to defer carries. Thank you.
Mike, can somebody at staff, I know they say they don't care, but contact someone at the post office that could come and speak to us, tell us what they prefer, and we'll try to, the numbers they prefer, or whether they want to pull off or not, or whether they just want it on the side of the street.
How many? In a
How many,
subdivision?
how many at a setting? If we know we're gonna have 200 lots, do you want them all together? Or do you want 450s, you know? Just a little guidance there
Yes, sir.
could
Right.
go a long way with all of us, staff and us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because in an apartment complex, it's not uncommon to have a double-sided rack of boxes that are like 100 on each side,
Yeah,
so
there is.
200 in one location.
Yeah, in some apartment complexes, you'll see one for every one for every large building too. So
Yeah, so I don't know, yeah, the quantity question is a good one. What,
hey, we'll try to help them out
yeah.
if they'll give us a little bit of guidance, help their carriers out.
Yes, sir.
Well, I also think it's important to talk about where, you know, is it sheltered? Is it lit? Because, you know, we always talk about lighting and how that affects neighbors. And I really like the idea of there being some kind of a buffer depending on how it's located in proximity to neighbors. I think those are important design pieces that need to be fleshed out.
All good thoughts.
Really is, and there'll probably be much more discussion on these as time goes by.
Maybe all of us.
But the main thing is, I think that we've gotten out of this, you guys, is that we have some control over a plat.
Yeah.
And if we don't like where that is, I think we have the right to say, we don't like it, give us another alternative, regardless. And I was just wondering if they'd already sent that to the post office. If they have, then I'm not sure how they're going to handle that, but
If it comes back approved from the post office, then we're saying no.
Yeah.
So,
I think Rhonda said it, that all they care about is that there's a box there and they can put mail in. I don't know that they care about traffic patterns or safety or lighting or trash. I think that-
Anything we can do to make it easier on the carrier, I
Yeah.
think is a plus for everyone.
Yeah.
if I were a developer and I'd already had 2 or 3 phases in place, I'd ask for an exception,
yes,
an
sir.
extension, just to put in mailboxes. But in a situation like this where it's phase 1, the post office is probably going to say, no, you're going to have to start the other situation. And I think that discussion is really important for us today. So you guys give it some thought as a staff, and at this meeting next month, we'll have some follow-up discussion on that as to what we found out. But I think that this planning commission has the right to say, since it's in a plat, that we don't like it there. So the answer is no. Give us another option. Good discussion, you guys. Item 6A9, 18-2110, Creeks Bend subdivision, Section 2, Phase 1, 37 lots on 18.76 acres, zoned RM, located off Old Lebanon Road. John T. Holloway is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. This 37-lot subdivision for Creeks Bend, Section 2, Phase 1, involves 18.76 acres, is traditional zone RM. The preliminary plan for the subdivision was approved March of this year, and the final plat is consistent with the approved plan. We did have some housekeeping issues that have been addressed by the applicant, and as far as a centralized mail site, according to our notes here, it indicates that lot 287 was identified as having the easement applied to that lot for the centralized mail system, and that we indicated to them that they'd need a site plan. However, I'm not seeing it on the uploaded.
And it is a corner lot.
But if you, in defense of this particular lot, it does have a little extra area, and it can lose a little bit or have a easement identified, but I do not have it shown on this uploaded one, so, but they did indicate lot 287.
That looks like a good place and a larger lot that you could take something off of. To me, I don't know, it just looks better sitting right here.
And this is part of a new section of a previously developed subdivision where most of these people are receiving their mail at the mailbox, so they might ask for a waiver on this one. So.
But you have no indication whether they have or not, and
it just says acknowledged when we made the comment.
And then please see the plat for the location of the easement, and it said lot 287. So
Yeah, I'm not seeing where they've identified.
I think for consistency's sake, we need to defer this one as well.
Yeah. Because there's no plan and no waiver.
It's not even marked on the plat.
Mike, I have a question about lots 268 and 287. It looks like the building setback lines are mighty close to the street, along curve C9 and C16 there.
Yeah, let's see.
well, we do allow for an alternate setback for corner lots now. In 2013, when we adopted the zoning ordinance, it provided for corner lots to have a reduced second front yard, and that's what you're seeing.
I was thinking that was a reduced, I knew it was a reduced backyard. Rear yard. So those houses can be theoretically 10, 15 feet from the road?
Right,
One
but
and a
it's
half
got to
ton.
face the other street, the other corner.
It has to be oriented towards the 40-foot setback required.
That could put your air conditioning unit within 10 feet of the street, basically. Well, that's what we approved.
Put it on the other side of the house.
Certainly.
It's your neighbor's window.
So, I would assume with the side with the step tank, they would need the extra room. But yeah, the way the rules are stated now, that you could have a 15-foot side setback. they would both orient Crooked Creek Road on this, but like you said, you could have an HVAC unit out almost in the street.
And a fence.
And a fence, yeah.
And I think we were pretty clear about fences having to be a certain distance from the street on this kind of zoning, weren't we?
No, I think the heights and the materials and whether it's transparent or opaque was recently amended.
Front yard.
But we do allow fences in the front yard.
Setback on fences in the front yard.
Yeah, we do on the front yard.
So this is, I think this is a standard RM zone. All 15,000 square foot, yeah, RM zoning.
That's the trouble with the corner lot.
Yeah.
Used to be 2 fronts.
There's just no lead time on the implementation. It's just here.
Apart from the one item, we found that it addressed all of our conditions with the exception of that. It's not really identifying on the uploaded plat.
Likewise, this is under construction and they're not ready to release lots yet, so.
I think, again, for consistency's sake, I think we need to make a motion to defer. If they come back and tell us that they got the waiver and they're able to do mailboxes, then we wouldn't let that hold them up. But I think we need to see more details, more design. And like I said, it's not even reflected on the plat that lot's going to be dedicated. So motion to defer.
Motion to defer?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to defer 18-2110 Creeks Bend, Section 2, Phase 1. Other discussion? All those in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to defer carries. Thank you. Item 6A10, 18-2111 Long Creek Subdivision, Section 6, 33 lots on 38.79 acres, zoned RM, located on Center Rock Drive. Fox Development is the applicant. Danielle.
Thank you. They're seeking approval for the 33 lot subdivision on 38.79 acres named Long Creek Subdivision. It's located off Center Rock Road. The preliminary plan was approved back in 2016, October, and the final plat appears to be consistent with the approved plan. We did have a number of comments, and it looks like we still have some outstanding comments. They did identify that lots 217 is the lot that will have the centralized mail kiosk.
Which is a detention pond lot.
Okay, so that's a common area lot where a private property owner wouldn't be affected. And then we find that it's in good order with the exception of, let's see, lot 224, the geotechnical. Did you want to speak to that? You didn't.
Is there a homeowner association?
Oh, there's one lot that had more than 2 feet of fill, and I think it was 224. We just need a notation that a geotechnical report will be needed before a building permit will be issued on this. So this
Is there a homeowner association on it?
I believe there is one, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, because they've got a pond, actually 3 ponds they'll have to maintain. And this is kind of an interesting hybrid. It's got conventional and step on it, which
That is permitted to, then. I had wondered that before. I didn't know whether it's permitted or not.
Well, we had some issues with the estates of Lewis Downs, I think, on that one. But it's most of the step lots are consolidated together. I think there's one over here, 226. But the rest, they've kind of, I guess, segregated where the conventional septic system and the step lots are located. But like Danielle said, there was a few issues we had. One of them being the post office and the compaction letter for lot 224, fire hydrant locations. Once they get those locations from CUD, they need to show that on the plat. But other than that, they've addressed the remaining outstanding items.
The recommendation?
I'm hesitant to recommend it.
Oh, well, I mean,
with this
with-
post office issue.
Well, with the lot that they've identified, it is at a cul-de-sac, and they can submit a site plan. It's a 55 feet of length along that cul-de-sac, and I think any development of a kiosk wouldn't block any access to that drainage easement with that width that we have there.
Right.
I mean, if, of course, we review a site plan to make sure that it doesn't affect traffic areas or traffic flow. But it is at the end of the cul-de-sac. It is a common area lot, so.
But there is no plan at the moment, just a lot.
Just a lot that's identified as, but I mean, in a lot of cases, you approve plans or preliminary plats or final plats that might have identified a lot as an amenity lot, but the site plan comes much later.
And they do have an HOA to maintain this.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And where is it written on the plat that that lot is going to have decentralized mail?
Well, they've identified 217.
Which is this
Yeah.
long
Right, I
lot.
see the lot. I just don't see anything that mentions the mail.
No, they don't. I don't think they've got it.
So can they put it there and not interfere with the easement to the detention pond?
That's kind of what I was looking at. As long as we can, have an access drive back to the pond where they can maintain it, and then I didn't see drainage that would be an issue, but we'll have to, I guess, fine tune it with the site plan. The drainage comes around and goes to a long ditch that goes around 216 and then goes into the pond. So this will essentially have a driveway culvert. This is all roadside ditch in this section, and then just back to the pond to maintain it. So yeah, they could put a kiosk here and just
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, it really looks like a good spot. I just, you want to put it in a method that doesn't impair getting back to the detention pond.
Yes, sir. And like I said, this is an existing subdivision where all these are getting their mail at the end of their driveway right now. So if it were me, I'd ask for a waiver to continue to finish this out. This is the last section for Long Creek, I believe, or one of the last.
Compared to the other two, this is a better location, I think. It's just,
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the long strip of land between 218 and 216 that gets you back to on 217 that gets you back to that. Was that supposed to be a ditch? What was it supposed to be?
No, ma'am. The ditch is between 215 and 216, and then it curls around the back of 216 and gets into the pond. This is essentially just an access easement to get back to the pond. I'll turn the construction plans on again. So here's the ditch that drains the cul-de-sac and then gets back to the pond here. So this is just open ground.
So it's going to look like those 2 yards are connected. So then where would you put the kiosk?
Probably, most likely, maybe one of these corners. Give me enough. 50 feet's, wide enough to put several driveways in.
Yeah, C8 there is 55 feet in the radius, so I figured it's full 50 feet. It should be.
They're showing
Those are
52
larger lots adjacent
feet, so
too.
it's got a lot of room.
I like that. I like it a lot better because you're on the cul-de-sac back there in the back, And we might just have to try something, see if it works, what doesn't.
And to respond to your question about it's not notated on the plat that's uploaded, they've identified it, and I don't know if these represent the most recent ones because I didn't see it on the last one, but I would probably require them to place a note on the plat. If, you know.
And a hatched area, you know,
Right.
signifying a post office easement.
For me personally, just for consistency's sake, I'd like to defer this one. You know, if y'all want to have more conversation about it, that's fine, but I'm not comfortable without a plan. And if they get a waiver, terrific again, but if not, you know, I don't really see that this is, I know what you're saying, it's a better
No,
location,
but
but there's still no plan. There's still no, so.
You'd like it to be shown,
For consistency,
For
it'd be
instance, this one be shown on the plan. and
Right,
then-
it's like-
and then
it's like
we
a-
have a better comfort
Well,
level with
Yeah,
it.
it's not even referenced on the plat.
Yeah, and I'll just
And then can we
acknowledge.
pass these things then, if it shows, they come back in a month, they show it on the plan?
I'm going to give SEC a hard time for not being here.
I am.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and then if they get a waiver, they just exit out
Right.
off the site plan.
I agree with the deferral for consistency. I just
Do-
think this was a better location of the other than the other two.
They got more to work with.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir. And you're in that corner right there, probably won't upset the people going in and out of those adjacent lots. Maybe as bad.
They're 2.5 and 3 acre lots. So.
They are large.
They are step system lots, is that correct
Oh,
also?
well, yeah, the three in the back
there are.
They are step system. You're correct. They're not conventional septic systems, so there's some scattered step system lots outside of the area to the south here that.
So can they build on a step system lot? I mean, don't they have to be careful back there?
Well, these lots that are narrower than 80 feet will require a CUD plot plan. So they'll have to see where the driveway and the step tank and the house are situated on the lot. But the mail kiosk would be on the 217, which is all common
It'll
area.
actually be in the right of way, going or 50 feet going to
Yes, sir.
270.
Right.
It was 52 feet, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Was that a motion to defer?
I'll make a motion to defer for consistency, yes.
Second.
Over 3.
A motion.
Over the mailboxes.
We have a motion and a second to defer 18-2111 Long Creek Subdivision, Section 6. Other comments? All in favor of that motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion to defer carries. Thank you.
Mike, when you call SEC, would call the rest of the engineers that we normally deal with, get them to start reaching out to the post office.
Yes.
See if they can get some feedback. We might not be able to, they may be able to.
Right. Yes, sir.
We don't slow this down.
The more squeaky wheel is going to get the grease, I
yes,
think,
yeah.
yeah.
Jeff and I talked earlier about appointing Craig Lynch a one-man committee due to his extensive experience at the post office, you know.
Is that a motion?
That's why I said 6-7 years, it'll scrap this whole idea.
I just want to comment, this is not the fault of the developers or anybody here.
Or the
I put every
engineers,
bit of the blame right here on regulations made by the U.S. Postal Service. I don't blame it on our postmaster here or the those who deliver the mail. It just comes down to, hey, we want you to do this, and this is all there is to it. But you got to give some point of direction. You got to give some type of way of how the regulations to be done. And when you just throw it out there like that, you're going to get all types of problems and all types of situations as we have right here. And I think this is one of the frustrations the people have when you deal with the government. This is just like our when you sit down with your IRS situations and things of this type. You know, well, this is the rule. We don't tell you how to do it. We just, no, that's not the way you do it. But I think this is the problem we see right here with this. So, today you've seen the frustration of this panel of individuals sitting here today of how do we take care of this and how we look after these people who are going to have houses in these subdivisions and how it's fixed there. So that's where the problem is.
And along that point, that's what Craig and I were actually saying a few minutes ago. I don't even really need the post office so much to tell me how to do it, because I like that it gives us flexibility, site to site, and it lets us decide what's right for our community. They gave us no lead time for implementation.
No.
That's the problem, is they didn't give us any time to prepare or make a plan.
That was my
They just
question.
said, do it now. That's the frustration.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
back
they
to-
said- they
to
said if you're-
flipping us a little bit to that, the post office is not saying, this is what you gotta do. We're telling the post office what we're going to do. We just gotta put it in, so
Right.
we can design it any way we want. They're gonna approve whatever we design. We
That-
got,
that-
but we need to get it right, starting off, how we
Our
want.
goal is to do something that works for the mail carrier, but mainly the homeowner too.
Yeah, yeah. So
That was our question, is when do we start implementing this? And they said, if you're not receiving your mail now,
Now.
now.
You
we
know,
gotta do
the
it.
post office could have told us something that was
was
really
no comment.
ugly to go in a subdivision.
Yeah.
But we got the leeway to do what we want to do.
Just no lead time.
No, I mean, we've got to do it in 10 minutes,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah,
all right.
Thank you. I think what we've just talked about, that we are a planning commission.
Right.
We look at a plan and don't like it, give us another plan. Give us another option, and that's exactly what we're saying. Item 6C, these are items submitted for site plan approval, 6C1 18-3012, Sulphur Springs Market, new construction of 4,500 square feet of general retail space, convenience market, and gas station on 2.4 acres, zone CS, located along Sulphur Springs Road. Tri-State Petroleum is the applicant. Danielle.
Okay, on your staff comments page in your agenda, it incorrectly identifies it as exit 89 self-storage. We are considering Sulphur Springs Market as shown on the agenda. And they are constructing a 4,500 square foot general retail area, which includes a convenience market and gas station on 2.4 acres in the CS zone. Since this site plan was initially considered by the Planning Commission, back in May, there was some discrepancies between the zoning lines that were shown, the CS and the RM zoning line. Since then, the applicant has reappeared before you to correct that discrepancy, and the additional area that was needed was zone CS. And we have found that the site plan has addressed most of all of our comments, except for we are still waiting for them to demonstrate a couple of the landscaping requirements that we asked them to provide additional vegetation along that RM property line, as well as demonstrate that the 30-foot average buffer width is met. However, apart from that, they did add a 60-foot turn lane that has been shown on the
Yeah,
plans.
I apologize, I've got the wrong one loaded, but they do have a left turn lane on Sulphur Springs, and they've moved the entrance to share it to this adjacent property here. So we'll reduce the number of driveways, access points, yeah. It's gonna be shared with this other parcel right here.
Is there a plan for that parcel?
Yes, there's a concept plan. You haven't seen it yet, but there is a plan for that. And I believe Holston Steel's working on both of those.
And so we find it in good order. These items that we've identified regarding the landscaping can be addressed, be conditioned. Your approval can be conditioned upon that.
And part of the issue with the landscaping is there's a big TVA easement through here, and I think that was part of the how you can landscape in a TVA easement kind of thing. So they've got to come up with like an alternative design, I think.
Typically, a developer would put a 6-foot privacy fence, and that would eliminate the need for so much buffer area. In this case, they are not placing a privacy fence,
Yeah,
and
and
that
that's also-
increases the requirements for vegetation.
Yeah, also, you can't put a privacy fence in
Easement.
TVA easement, so that's part of it. Page 22.
Will you go back to the street view for a second that you're on?
Underground storage on the petroleum, I can't.
Yes.
No.
I think there is.
I mean, it shows it in the front there, but it doesn't say whether it's underground or above ground.
It'll be underground tanks. Our Zoomer will work. Yeah, fuel storage, and they've demonstrated a fuel truck being able to get in and out, 18-wheeler. But here's the
Are they making any improvements to Sulphur Springs for like a left turn lane?
Yes, they're putting in a left turn lane, dedicated left turn lane, so they're widening out a little bit right here and then tapering it back in to have the ability for people making left turn movements into both these developments to allow traffic to flow around them.
And the one to the east, we'll see sooner, relatively
Yes,
soon.
I would say so. The other plan on the east side, are y'all still working on something, bringing that to us?
Yeah, I think trying to work something out now.
Yeah.
This is the Dollar General.
Johnny Lane.
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
Right.
Is the left turn lane shown on the plat?
It is, well, it's on the final plat or the site plan?
What we're looking at, the site plan.
I think I pulled up the wrong site plan, but I can try to find that for you.
You pull this up. There you go, Mike.
It might be on your iPad. It's the middle of the site. Here's the Sulphur Springs Market. And it's still showing that same one, so, but I have seen a hard copy, the printed copy with the turn lane on there. Is it not on the iPad?
Trying to wait for it to pop in.
Turn lanes are needed there.
Yes, it is a challenge.
Yeah, it's a fast curve through there.
And
there's
eventually-
no shoulder.
Right. That is on the city and our long-range improvement plan to straighten that curve out. But right now, I think it's a long-term improvement.
Very long.
If those properties across the street ever convert to commercial, directly across from where this property is, would we have the ability to go back and make the property that we're looking at now like a right in, right out only? And the only reason that I'm asking that is because we've got a situation on Old Nashville Highway in Smyrna where a Dollar General store went. And at first blush, you know, it's a 6-lane road. You've got, or a 5-lane road. You've got 2 in each direction and a turn lane. But now you've got a strip center on one side and the and a popular road there at Rock Springs, and so you're playing chicken in the turn lane with people trying to get in to Dollar General. When really, ideally, it should be. It's just evolved. That traffic pattern has evolved to where it should be a right in, right out only.
Yes.
So, if an area like that improves over time, do we have the ability to go back in and ask them to adjust
It's
that entrance?
a little more difficult to do that after they've opened and established
No. Right.
their
That was
pattern.
the
So I'd
answer.
say it's a no.
I'm just curious because I think that's exactly the situation I'm thinking about as I see this here. Because again, that's why I was asking about the turn lane. You at least need that left turn lane in. But at some point, if that becomes a busy commercial corner, you're gonna run into the same situation. So.
Right. The city is calling that a 5-lane road, Sulphur Springs, but it is a long-term improvement. So it might be
Way down the
15,
road.
20
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
before they straighten that out.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, once they've opened and established, I'd say the ones on the south side would have to adjust to it.
More so.
More so, looking at the driveway locations and traffic patterns on that. So it would.
It just happens quicker than you think it
Yes.
is going to.
Yes.
But, you know.
But if those two parcels were to be request rezoning, I would probably strongly look at reserving a future right-of-way through there. So that would greatly impact what they're doing on the south side.
Width, yeah.
Knowing that this needs to be, vertical and horizontal challenges need to be straightened out. So I would definitely look at that. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation. But with this combined entrance here, limiting the number of driveways, and this left turn lane, which I apologize, I can't find the site plan with it on there, but there is a paper copy at the office, I know, that will enhance turn movements in there.
So there's a left turn lane and a right turn lane?
There is just a left turn
Just the
lane.
left turn lane.
Going east on Sulphur Springs, you'll be able to take a left turn lane. into
Coming
the site.
from 840.
Right.
From 840 side, yes, sir. And
Because of that curve, though, do you think it needs possibly a right turn lane as well?
well, we're going to have a wide commercial entrance, and they've demonstrated that they can get a WB65 as a big tractor trailer turning in and out of there without any issues. And I'll show you on the
that was
current plan. Yeah, they're being able to turn and get out. So there's the commercial entrances are going to be a little bit wider to allow the truck turning movements in and out. So not so much. I don't think they need one, but we'll look at that with the traffic that's going into the adjacent site and seeing if it's an improvement that they need to make on that side. So it's not beyond the realm of
Right.
asking
Again,
for.
because it's just, like you said, it's a fast curve right there. Sight line is not that great, so it just made me
Right.
want, if somebody's coming down that road pretty fast.
Right. We have to be careful with this intersection right here. So that's something we'll have to look at closely. We don't want, traffic backing up. So maybe a turn lane would be a good idea to allow people to get off that road. But other than that, the plan's in good order. A little landscaping here and there and tweaking on the road plans.
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-3012 Sulphur Springs Market. Other comments and questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Couple of announcements. We have a training session scheduled for the 22nd of October. That precedes this 9 a.m. meeting next month.
Is it on mailboxes?
Maybe it needs to be.
Kiosk mailboxes.
Would that be the 29th?
It'll.
7:30.
Let's see. I've got the 22nd, I believe.
22nd, I'm sorry. I heard
Yeah.
the 27th.
22nd, and that'll be at 7:30 a.m. And then, of course, the 9 a.m. Planning meeting will follow. Josh McCrary will be leading the training and discussion on personal property rights. You all ready, Josh?
Where do you put your
So
mailbox?
mark that on your calendar, 7:30 on the 22nd of October, right here in this room. Our next meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. That's Monday, October the 8th, on the second floor of the historic courthouse. And one other thing, looking ahead, historically, we've not had a 9 a.m. meeting in November and December. The December meeting would be on the 24th of December, and I know that's not going to happen. The 9 a.m. meeting, which is not on our calendar, would be on Monday the 26th, which is the week after Thanksgiving. And I'd suggest to staff, if we have an agenda that looks anything like the last couple or three 9 a.m. meetings, you might want to put that back on the calendar. Because I would not want to go 2 hours into a 6 p.m. meeting just to do plats, and then another public hearing meeting that would go on forever. So keep your calendars open, and we'll hear back from staff as to what the agenda might look like, okay? Anything else from staff?
No,
sir.
I have a question. Did anyone go to the Power of 10 meeting and about a 30-second description of what, a short description of what y'all saw, either one?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was caught by, they want to increase green space and how valuable green space is. And, in the 70s, before the 70s, everyone lived downtown and it was very much a town community environment. And then everything went to the suburbs and got into cars. And they're trying to bring it back to a walking communities again. And it's just a mindset change, a policy change, and a transportation change.
What would they say? We're losing 20 acres of farmland a day in Tennessee? That was the number that stayed with me.
Just to follow up on that, on final plat approval, we had over 135 lots just in final today, and then we had a 237 lot in preliminary today. And those of you that remember, we're going back to where we were in the early 2000s, and there's no end in sight. And that's the main reason that we're suggesting, if we need to have a meeting on Monday, the 26th of November, put it back on the calendar, okay?
Can I add one thing to that?
You can.
Power of 10, Mike and everyone else. I sat in on some of the TDOT meetings as well that morning, and one of the things TDOT is doing now and addressing and planning for, as well as the cities are going to have to address very quickly, is the new right-of-ways of the future. They're trying to figure out how to fit new infrastructure in terms of fiber optics that will handle self-driven cars of the future, as well as robots that will be part of merchandising and selling that will be up and down the right-of-ways, much like kiosks in the mall. The future will be robots that will be up and down the right-of-ways selling soft drinks or phones or things like that, and that will all be powered by fiber optics that will be in the right-of-ways. So TDOT is trying to address how to fit that, as well as our telephones, our sanitary sewer, our storm sewer, and our current optics in the right-of-ways. In the cities and counties, you're going to have to address that as well. So that is a big challenge of how to get future technology in our current right-of-way systems. So it's pretty interesting.
It's a challenge now because
yeah.
Superintendent Brooks and I have dealt with some of that.
Yeah. So
we already have some self-driving cars right now. Dodged several of them this morning coming into town. But I did want to mention, Mike, one thing that I was impressed with. Of course, you would think I would be, the fact that we did have a session dealing with agriculture. At this one, talking about the loss of farms within the state of Tennessee and the importance that farming does give back to the commerce of the state, and how much they add to this green space that we do have within the state, and what the challenge we're facing in that direction too. And that was actually presented by an individual from Rutherford County that did that, and I think it's a great program that she did present, and I'd like to see it presented in some other areas within our own county at some time. I like for this panel, this entire panel, see what she did present there, because it wasn't that long, it wasn't that detailed. I'd like for us to get all of us get a chance to see what she presented.
Was it the financial benefit from agriculture exceeded tourism in Rutherford County?
Tourism. The financial benefit from agriculture exceeds tourism. Wow. I think that's something we all should see.
Well, I'd love to see some farmland preservation in this county because my agricultural roots are so deep. And with the farm-to-table movement, I don't know how long that lasts, and it may get bigger and bigger. So, I think it's good to have some farms around. And it seems that some in this county want everything under a house, and all the schools you can build and all the traffic we can handle, plus about 200%. So, I would love to see this, this body consider what could be done. So.
One last thing, I'm sorry I keep dragging this on. But one other takeaway I had was there was a lot of talk about greenways and how people like to bicycle and walk, and connectivity to subdivisions and commercial retail. So as developers in this county design, if you are close to a current Rutherford County greenway, they need to be thinking about the possibility of connectivity to the greenway, to commercial and residential areas. So,
Walkable.
yeah.
One note, Mike, is the city of Murfreesboro does have a Greenway master plan, and I've got a copy of that, and I do look at that when we see developments. So Davenport Station, we've identified an area to reserve for Greenway extension coming down from Barfield Park.
Good.
Yeah. We are looking at that.
Is that a taking, or is it compensated, or
It
do
will
the
be.
developers go along with it? I mean,
Well,
I'm just curious.
Most of that land is floodplain, so they're not going to build in there anyway. So I don't know if I'd call it a taking, but we've asked them to.
And most of them go along with it.
Yes.
So if it's on the high side of the river, you can have some valuable lots there.
Yes, right. And they're using that part of their amenity area, but they know that the Greenway will eventually come down that way. And
Oh, and it could
be
be a great
converted.
asset to the subdivision itself,
Yes.
too.
The next development that we talked about is the same situation.
Same
Right,
situation,
yeah.
yes, sir.
One other thing, I see Danielle snuck in the back of the room back there, and kind of a shout out to her. She stood up before the county commission
Tanya.
at the last meeting and made a recommendation to an oversight that the commission did in a committee appointment, and she said she didn't want to do it, but she did it. And if we get into that situation again, she'll have to do it again, but I'm pretty sure that she won't put herself in that position ever again. But Danielle, thank you for
Tanya.
thank you for helping us. I'm sorry, Tanya, thank you for helping us with that situation and to get through that last month. Good job.
Speaking of Tanya, she is currently reviewing the noise ordinance, and again, we're working on the fireworks ordinance. And if you'll all remember, the full commission 2 meetings ago suggested that go back to Public Works, which will then come back to planning. So at our next steering committee meeting, I'm going to suggest that we make a formal request that come to Public Works, my committee, which will then come back to here. So to connect the dots, I will make a formal request to come back to planning on the next meeting.
Just a kind of a brief update too. At some point in time, our new mayor, Bill Ketron, took some commissioners and other community Rutherford County leaders and officials to a trip to East Tennessee to look at potential alternatives to our landfill situation. It was a good trip, and if we were to begin to look at some of these alternatives, this committee would be involved in some rezoning situations that's going to create much discussion. So over the next couple of years, kind of be prepared for not in my backyard kind of a discussion. But it's going to happen probably somewhere at some point in time, and the public needs to be aware of that, and this commission needs to be aware of that. So it's one of those things that looks like it's an outstanding opportunity and alternative, but then we got to find a place to put it, and that's where we get involved in this process. Anything else? Thank you for your time, your attendance, and your participation. We are adjourned.